Hi there, this is Sandra from the Schwowin's Nest. Welcome to my 12 Days of Christmas series. My first project for you today is using this wooden pizza paddle that I picked up at my local Dollarama store. A couple of weeks ago, I finally invested in a Cricut Joy, and I couldn't be happier. I'm going to be able to still create all of my own designs, but the great thing about it is I'm going to be able to make them into free printables for all of my viewers and subscribers. So I'm really excited to be able to share all of that with you. I did find these 3 trees on pixabay.com, and I will put a free printable down in my description box. I'm going to add the words Merry and Christmas, and I'm doing this all in the Cricut vinyl simply because this was my very first project that I attempted, and I wanted to make sure that I knew what I was doing. I'm sealing this with a coat of Mod Podge because it's going to be hanging on my front door. It's not going to get wet elements on it, but it will be pretty cold right at the front door, so I want to make sure that nothing peels off. I decided to add some embellishments to the top of the handle, and I'm using some lamb's ear leaves and some pine and some berries, and I'm just going to create a design that is appealing to me and hot glue everything into place. I'm using some of the jute rope as a hanger, and I fed both pieces into the front of the sign and then tied a big fat knot, as you can see here, and that will allow the loop to be at the back and hanging nice and flat against the door. I really love how this turned out, and I think it looks absolutely fabulous against the white of my front door. My second project is this wooden reindeer that comes in 4 pieces and stands up. I've seen these at some thrift stores, and I think they're even on a couple of Etsy shops, but this one was a gift to me when I was about 12 years old from my grandmother, and I've had it ever since, and he's been out every Christmas with us, but I thought this year it's time for him to get a little refresher. I gave him 2 coats of DIY chalk paint, and now I'm going to dry brush him a little bit with some black, focusing more on the edges and the corners. Then I'm just going to go across him with whatever paint is left on the brush and add a little bit more texture. I think he turned out really sweet. My third DIY for you today is using these 2 little jam jars from Smucker's Jam, which is something we love, especially the seedless raspberry. I'm using a flat black spray paint, and this is actually something left over. It is a high heat barbecue paint, and I used it to redo my fireplace, which was gold, and I'm using this now on my crafts, and it is an amazing black paint. It's super matte and it dries lickety split. So if you're looking for a black matte or flat spray paint, please go ahead and grab one of these because it's amazing. As you can see here, I am painting this little crate that I got at Michael's. It was $1.49, and I've given it just 1 coat of my DIY chalk paint, and now I'm going to use some black to give it some dry brushing and make it look old and weathered. I created this free printable in Google Drawings, and soon I'm going to be having a tutorial on all of the things that I'm doing on my website. That's something that I'm working on to get up and running for the new year. So I'm hoping you will stick around and subscribe so you can see what I'm doing and then also be able to use a lot of the things that I'm creating. So I'm just going to cut out this as close to the letters as I can and then just use a glue stick to glue it onto the crate. Using some black and white gingham or buffalo check ribbon, I'm going to just glue that on in a way that it covers up the writing of the J.M. Smuckers on either side of the jar. And that's just going to be really simple. Just put it around almost like a little necktie and then cut off the excess. I decided to add a couple of little red pip berries to each of the jars just to give them a little bit of extra color, but nothing too festive that you wouldn't be able to leave this up for the winter. I'm going to flatten down the bottom of a couple of jingle bells and glue them on top of the lids. For these smaller jingle bells, it's really easy to get rid of that loop at the bottom. You just literally push that jingle bell right down onto the table or another hard surface, and that little loop will flatten out, and then you'll be able to glue it on nice and straight. Now that the jars had their little splash of red, I thought the crate needed something too. So I'm just taking this pipberry garland, which is wired, and I'm going to glue it right on the top edge all the way around. I did decide to glue on a holly leaf just to make it a tiny little bit more festive. My last project for you is using this charger plate from Michaels. I got them in a set of 8, and I'm just going to use my DIY chalk paint and paint the inside circle. I thought this tea tin from Dollarama would be the perfect accompaniment to the plate, so I'm going to take that brown wood lid and paint it white. I'm also going to paint the section in between those two ridges white, and that's going to take a couple of coats, making sure that it dries really well in between. When you're using this DIY chalk paint, you have to let it dry completely in between. Otherwise, the next coat of paint will remove whatever is still damp. So if you want to use a hairdryer to speed up the process, that would be fine, but that's just a little tip that I wanted to share with you. I've got 2 to 3 coats on the circle here in white, and now I'm taking a fine artist brush and I'm just going to do a black rim right around where that little lip is or that edge is. And I'm just going to go really slow and make sure that I'm using the brush to help me with all of the edging. I grabbed a drawer pull that I had in my stash, and I'm using this same flat black paint to give it a couple of coats. For this design, I took advantage of the design access for Cricut and got this Milk and Cookies for Santa's vinyl sticker. As I do with all of my vinyl projects, I'm going to give it a coat of Mod Podge to make sure it's secure and to also make sure that the paint doesn't chip off. For the tin, I created my own decal for it. I had a reindeer from Pixabay, which I will link down in the description box, and I just typed in the words reindeer feed and changed the font and created my own design. Using some hot glue, I'm going to attach the drawer pull to the top of the lid. I wanted to add some embellishment around the white space on the tin, so I'm taking some of this white and black butcher twine, and I'm just going to go around the tin about 3 times, so I'll have 3 different layers, and I'm going to try really hard not to glue anything in the front, so just on the sides and the back, because sometimes you do see a little bit of that hot glue peeking out. I'll do that for both ends. Looking at the lid, it was a little plain, so I decided to add just 1 row of the twine right around the edge of it. And since this is a matching set, it wouldn't have looked right if the plate didn't get any of the twine. So the Mod Podge is still a little bit wet, so I'll be going ahead and adding some of the twine on the inside circle between the white and the black, and I'm also going to put some on the edge where the black meets the galvanized lip of the plate. I wanted the plate to sit a little bit higher off the table. It was just looking too low compared to the tin. So I'm adding this little square, which was painted white, and I'm going to hot glue it right to the center of the back of the plate. I hope you enjoyed these projects and I'm so glad you're here. If you like what you saw, I'd love for you to stick around a while. Hit that subscribe button. Those two black arrows will show you exactly where to click. Thank you so much for watching right to the end. Happy holidays!